Welcome back. All right, news of the day video for all you fine people on the internet for your Friday, June the 20th. So we're sitting about 10 days out from free agency. We are a week out today exactly from the entry draft. And so let us discuss at the top of the board a signing that will be announced officially on July the 1st in terms of the contract. But Jonathan Toews has agreed to terms with the Winnipeg Jets. He's going to play for the Jets. That's been the rumor the whole time. And so there you go. Toews, it's a very creative contract on behalf of the Winnipeg Jets. I like it. I do. Basically, the better the Jets play, the more success they have, the more money Jonathan Toews makes. So the base salary is $2 million, and that's what's going to count against the salary cap this year. All of the other bonuses would get thrown onto the next year's salary cap should he reach these bonuses. There are games played bonuses for him, $500,000 at each mark. Starting at the 20-game mark. So if he plays 20 games, he gets an extra $500,000. And again at 30 games. And again at 40 games. Again at 50 and at 60. So those are that's $2.5 million he can get just from playing 60 games. So I like that because it means if he's able to play and he's healthy, he's going to get paid. There's a playoff bonus of $500,000. So that's pretty healthy as well. If they make the playoffs and he plays more than 50 games, he gets the $500,000. He also gets $250,000 for the team winning in the first round if he plays at least 50% of the games in that series. He also gets $250,000 in the second round as well as the conference final if the team wins and he plays 50% of the games in those situations. And then if they win the Stanley Cup and he plays half the games in the Stanley Cup win, it's $1 million that he gets as his bonus there. So there's a lot of bonus money, and I think it's a great contract both for Toews and Winnipeg. Because if the Jets win the Stanley Cup and Toews plays half the games to get there, I don't think anybody's going to care about all that bonus money. And maybe bringing in Toews, maybe that helps with if they do lose Ehlers, maybe it helps attract another free agent for them. So, yeah, I think this is a good signing for the Winnipeg Jets. And we'll see what else they do this offseason. But pretty creative bookkeeping there by Kevin Cheveldayoff. And it means that they still have cap space for next season, even with the signing of Jonathan Toews. Eric Robinson has signed an extension with the Carolina Hurricanes. It's a 4-year extension at $1.7 million per season. Robinson had a good year for Carolina. Good depth in the Carolina organization. And they keep that by keeping Robinson on the books. So it looks like Florida's really going to go for it next year. And the atmosphere around this team, they're obviously having a lot of fun, and they want to run this back. So first, Sam Bennett tells the fans at the party that he's staying for 8 more years. We don't know the cap hit. I don't know if Bennett knows the cap hit. Maybe he'd had some drinks. I'm thinking maybe. But he wants to stay 8 more years. Sounds like he is. Marchand then trolls the NHL teams that traded players to Florida on Instagram by posting all of the players who got traded and thanking the teams that traded them there. Because as I mentioned in the video I did previewing the Stanley Cup final for Florida and talking about how Florida was put together, a lot of those players were traded to Florida. Very often players traded there that we all kind of shook our heads at or shrugged and said, I don't know what Florida's seeing here. So Florida did a really good job of putting together an excellent roster, Marchand thanking them, and also kind of taking a backhand swipe at the other organizations. And can I blame him? No, not really. And he also said, give me a contract. He wants Bill Zito to give him a contract. He wants to stay in Florida. So if they keep Bennett and they keep Marchand, like I said in the video yesterday, I could absolutely see Florida going for a third Stanley Cup. And I don't know that I'd bet against them getting it right now. This team just is confident. They're very happy. And everybody's talking up just how great the organization is. So it is a good time for the Florida Panthers. The CHL has announced its first and second All-Star teams. In goal, Jackson Parsons is the first team All-Star. He is not a drafted player, does not belong to any NHL teams. We'll see if that changes this summer. And then on defense, you have Sam Dickinson, who of course is a San Jose prospect. Zane Parekh of the Calgary Flames organization. In forward groups, Gavin McKenna, who is of course eligible to be drafted next year and is seen as the very probable number 1 draft pick. Michael Misa, who is seen as a very likely top 2 draft pick in this year's draft, and Andrew Crystal, who is Washington Capitals property, rounds out the first team. The second team All-Stars in the CHL, Austin Elliott, who is going to the Stars development camp in net, and Dallas could use another goaltender in their organization. Just going to throw that out there. I think that makes a lot of sense if they bring somebody in and it works. On the blue line, Tyson Jugnoth, who is Seattle property, as well as Luca Morelli, who is Columbus property on the second team on the blue line. And then the forward group, Nick Lardis, the Chicago Blackhawks prospect, had a very good season. Ilya Protas, who of course is Washington Capitals property, and Berkeley Catton, who is also Seattle Kraken property. So Seattle with a couple of players on the board here, the Washington Capitals with a couple of forwards, and so that tells you these teams have some pretty good prospects in their system, and it is tough to be a CHL first or second team All-Star. There's a lot of players to go through, so that's pretty hefty praise there for those players. So the Edmonton Oilers, Stan Bowman, Chris Knobloch having their final press conference of this season before moving out for the summer. And Stan Bowman says they're anxious to start talks with McDavid on an extension. I'm sure they are. But he also says they're going to respect the timeline that McDavid wants. So if McDavid wants to take some time before talking about it, they have no problem with that. And of course they don't. Like, you're not going to pressure your own guy. You're going to want to make sure he has all the time in the world to think it all over. And Bowman is also looking to change goaltending and forwards. By the sounds of it, he's going to be looking at making a change when it comes to the goaltending and their forward group. But it sounds like he likes their defense as a group. He likes the defense quite a bit, so he doesn't want to touch that very much. But the goaltending and forward groups could see some change. And it really isn't all that different from what we talked about with the Oilers video there a couple days ago. Goaltending has cost them games in the playoffs, and their forward depth ultimately was not up to the same level as the Florida Panthers had, and that cost them. I don't know how many teams in the NHL could boast that kind of a third line that Florida had, but at any rate. So the NCC is confident they're going to have a deal with the Sens on a new arena for LeBret Flats. This is a discussion we've been having for many years on this channel. It continues to this day. It does sound like we're going to see some sort of an agreement soon, and that the Ottawa Senators will then officially start, planning out what they're going to do with their arena and how all of that's going to look. But it is important to get this done as soon as possible, because you want some sort of end date for when they're going to have a new arena for the Ottawa Senators. There's conflicting reports according to David Pagnotta, and these are around Matthew Nyes and what the status is of negotiations. So they're looking at negotiating a deal with Matthew Nyes. They want to get this done before July 1st because he can sign an offer sheet, and he's been listed as a player that teams would be very interested in with an offer sheet. So it definitely sounds like they're trying to get Nyes done before July the 1st, and depending on which person you ask, they're either kind of close to getting a contract done or not. So the wonders of the National Hockey League continue. Speaking of which, the preseason is not that far off. So some preseason schedules I saw being released today, and teams talking about the preseason. The Avs have a game on September 21st. That's the earliest one I've seen so far. Usually training camp opens on the 15th of September or around there. And so you get to playing the games within a few days of training camp getting started. So we're 93 days away from from the first preseason game anyways for Colorado. And so for people wondering just how long is this going to be without hockey, it really doesn't end up being that long. I used to fear the off season, the amount of time between the end of, the fancy free agent signings getting done, all those big, hot new contracts that we all hate pretty soon thereafter. But 2020 changed everything, where I went from March to August with not a whole lot to talk about, and I still got videos done during that time. So really, these off seasons now don't feel all that long. They don't feel like they're that big of a deal. Samsonov is going to market. Not really a surprise there. The Vegas Golden Knights have both Hill and Schmid under contract for next season in net. So Ilya Samsonov goes to market. And I know people are going to point out Samsonov didn't have a great year, which would be true. But if you look at the market for goaltenders right now, it is pretty thin. There are not a lot of big names out there when it comes to goaltenders. So, yeah, Samsonov is going to be going to market. PWHL Seattle has named a head coach. It's Steve O'Rourke who is taken over. And what's interesting with O'Rourke is he'd been the assistant for the Oshawa Generals, became the head coach, and then while they were in first place, they fired him. So he coached the Oshawa Generals for the 2024-2025 season, was fired in December, and it was a different philosophy in how he was coaching the team versus how management wanted the team to be coached. I guess at least that's how I saw it through the articles I was reading, because I did look that up and I'm like, well, Oshawa, how was that? Oh, he got fired. So we'll see how O'Rourke does for Seattle. The PWHL expansion team is seen as having a pretty darn solid roster, and now they've got their first coach. So, yeah, it should be fun. So, the Colorado Avalanche have basically, firmed up a little bit of their depth in the organization. Matt Steinberg signs a 1-year, 2-way extension with them. $775,000 at the NHL level, $100,000 at the AHL level. He did play 8 games for the Avs this year. He recorded 22 penalty minutes, did not have a point. At the AHL level, 54 games, 5 goals, 8 assists, and 13 points, 63 penalty minutes at the AHL level. They also have extended Paulin. He has signed a 1-year, 2-way extension, although his has that guaranteed money as well. So $775,000 in the NHL, $130,000 in the AHL, $140,000 guaranteed. So if he spends the whole season in the AHL, he then gets a bump of $10,000 at the end of the year. So that's pretty healthy. That's not too shabby. He played 2 games in the NHL this year, no points there. And playing for the Colorado Eagles of the AHL, he played 39 games, had 11 goals, 8 assists, 19 points there. So there you go. You guys are all caught up for now. We'll see if any trades take place or anything else happens today. And if so, I'll be in front of this board and talking to all you fine people about it when it does. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. Hit like and subscribe in the event that you may not have done so already. That being said, I will talk to you again soon.